You're watching the Urban Debate on Mirror now. I'm Faye D'Souza. Thank you for joining us. So the question to ask is Virat Kohli being commoditized? Well, according to a report in the leaked emails between Star and Asia Cup shows that Star has quoted that according to their media rights contract, the Asia Cup assured that the best available team will be part of the tournament. Star points out that Kohli is available but not playing. Where does that leave us? Why does this sound like the contract for a Bollywood blockbuster where you actually pick out who the movie stars are going to be and who's going to draw in the big viewership, who's going to draw in the big bucks? If Virat Kohli is being used as a Bollywood blockbuster and he's going to play this tournament and the West Indies tournament after that and the Australia tournament after that and then be ready for the World Cup, how can we possibly guarantee his fitness and guarantee his ability and make sure that he doesn't get injured? If he does get injured right before the World Cup, will Star actually then compensate in some way? Is that even possible? So on one hand, for Star to be treating this like a money spinner with movie stars who have to bring in the big bucks is already worrying. Is it because BCCI is signing contracts that run into hundreds of crores of rupees? And secondly, is Star actually treating a team now that includes Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan and Hardik Pandya and Jasprit Bumrah and MS Dhoni as simply not good enough? Remember, cricket is a team sport. I also want to know how you feel, because so much has changed in the game of cricket in the last few years. Is this the route we want this beloved game to be taking? Our phone lines are open to you. But joining me on the show, Chandrasekhar Luthra is a senior sports journalist. Kishore Bhimani is also a senior sports journalist. Dilip Cherian, founder of Perfect Relations. Matlan Jha is a cricket analyst. Shailendra Singh is an ad and sports guru. And Sumansi Raman is a sports analyst. We also have Arjit Srivastav is an RJ with Radio Mirchi. Mr. Cherian, I'm going to start with you. Contracts are being now written keeping in mind the television viewership that a tournament will bring. And obviously, according to Star Sports, Virat Kohli brings in massive television viewership. Remember, because let's remember that in this tournament, India is going to be playing Pakistan not once, but twice. Whose side are you on in this argument?
I tend to be on the side of the viewership and the fact that the television company has already paid a huge amount in advance for the rights to air the series. So I think they are in they're on sound ground where they push for something. But don't forget the context in which this is happening. The context is that studies are now showing that there is a secular decline in the viewership of cricket. So what is happening is that broadcasters are acutely aware of the fact that the share of voice and the share of time for cricket is actually heading towards a decline. The early signs are visible now, and therefore they recognize that you have to put your best foot forward to make sure that viewer engagement continues at the level where it makes for good economics for the kind of money that you're going to spend on airing these programs. So I think that if I were to have to choose a side, I would say I'm on the side of the broadcasters in this matter.
Well, I saw Sumansi Raman's hand go up. So here's my question, Mr. Raman. 22,000 crore rupees is what Star has spent on Indian cricket in multiple contracts of over 8 years. But does that justify turning the sport into a spectacle?
Look, Faye, to a large extent, I agree with what Mr. Dilip Cherian said. Fundamentally, the game is so big in India in terms of the BCCI earning so much of money and being able to spend that money to develop cricket, and a lot of it is coming from the broadcaster. So let's be very clear on this, whether it's coming through the IPL broadcast, whether it's coming through the domestic teams, the Indian teams broadcast, whatever. The rights contribute a large chunk of the BCCI revenue. So here is the question. Now, Star is committing something like 30, 40, 50 crore of rupees per game that India plays. already viewership has started to drift down over the last few years, though absolute numbers sometimes still keep going up. The attraction of various other sports has increased, and so are the other distractions which are available. Now, in this scenario, when a broadcaster is putting 40 or 50 crore per game, he will have to recover at least his investment. Even if he's not going to make a huge amount of money on one-off tournaments, he will at least have to recover his investment. And the contract states that the best available team will be sent. Now, Virat Kohli had been injured, that's a different issue. That is something which is beyond the control of anybody. But if he's fit and available, why he should, the broadcaster has every right to ask, not that the selection should be influenced by the broadcaster, that is unacceptable. But the broadcaster is entitled to ask the BCCI, if I'm paying you 40 crore per game now for this tournament because you have not sent your best player and the icon of your team, make it 30 crore per game or 25 crore per game. Now that is something that possibly is what Star is angling towards, and I think they're completely justified in asking for that. But increasingly, yes, people who are watching cricket are watching the big names.
But by that justification, on one hand, if we're saying that the broadcaster shouldn't have any say in selection, but they will be able to, or they should be able to bring down BCCI's revenue based on who is selected, that is an indirect influence on selection. Mr. Luthra, or Mr. Kishore Bhimani right now, I'll come to Mr. Luthra once we get that connection through. Mr. Bhimani, isn't that what it is?
Itself says
if effectively then BCCI will say, I don't. Mr. Bhimani, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going ahead. The point is, Faye, I am totally disagreeing with what the two gentlemen before me have said. The fact is, in the game of cricket, selection is a sacred duty of the selector. It is the board that decides who will represent the country. Over the 40 years that I have seen and covered and commentated on cricket, I have seen perhaps 30 occasions on which top players around the world, whether it be Ian Chappell, whether it be Jeff Boycott, whether it be whether it be Edrich, Luckhurst, people time and again drop out for different reasons, largely for fitness. Other reasons also. Today, for example, by this logic, I will, if I am a broadcaster or if I own a channel who's paid money for it, I will turn around and say that I don't like to watch a match where Australia is playing without Smith and Warner. Now, are we going to say either the ICC, I'll pick a quarrel with ICC, either they pick up Warner and Smith and bring them back into the fold, or I will not broadcast it. I think the broadcaster's job is a secondary job, as is where is. If they want to broadcast it, broadcast it. But I don't believe the sanctity of cricket can be sacrificed at the altar of this kind of commercialism. This kind of commercialism, as it is, has ruined the game in a big way. But today, we accept that part of the commercialization which has taken IPL where it is. Yes, money is required. Yes, money goes back into cricket. Yes, people get, the players get paid for it. But that does not mean the broadcaster cannot have a role larger than they have today. And they have to accept that the player has to be rested sometimes. It has nothing to do with injury. If today the board in its wisdom believes that Kohli needs rest, he should be rested. And this is not the first time. We've had Dhoni being rested. We've had Yuvraj being rested. We've had over the years players who are being rested psychologically, physically, mentally. If they are fatigued, they have to rest. They can't be told by the broadcaster, you must go and play because I want to make money. I'm sorry.
Well, the question we have to ask is really this: is it unfair to a cricketer when he has asked for rest to not provide him with that rest? What is the risk we are taking if we don't allow a cricketer to rest? Especially, let's remember when Virat Kohli has himself pointed out how strenuous the schedule has now become and how they're playing back-to-back tournaments and the pressure of the tournament. And also, the team has had a fairly strenuous, tour of England as well. Shailendra Singh, where do you stand on this argument?
First of all, Faye, compliments to Miranao and yourself for doing this debate, because I think 1.3 billion people are interested in this topic because cricket is a religion in this country. So I'm pretty confused because I think my other panelists have spoken from the heart and half of them from the mind. But the fact of the matter is that unfortunately our board treats cricket not like a sport but like a commercial commodity. And therefore, its exploitation has reached a point of its maximum exploit that we've seen in terms of pricing and its trading. Having said that, I personally believe that if you're selling a product at this price to a broadcaster or a sponsor, there's a certain promise you're making with the product. You're making a certain promise of performance, viewership, star packaging, etc. And I think you need to deliver that. So I don't know what the contract makes available for Star Sports and BCCI to actually get into a tangle of maybe discounting their rates because there's no Virat. I don't know that part. But my question to BCCI is that when you know that you're playing so much cricket in a year and fatigue is a serious factor, why do you put all your eggs in one basket? Why do you have the same captain leading the T20, one day and the test match? If you really want to commoditize this and trade it the way you do, because my God, 92% of the cricket money in the world cricket comes from India. So if this is the way you want to market and sell the sport, then why not make yourself safe? Why do you put all your eggs in one basket? The fact of the matter is that the viewership will get hurt if there's no Virat Kohli. That's the fact. That's the truth. And therefore, I'm sympathetic towards Star,
yes,
but I'm also sympathetic towards cricket, not BCCI, because all of us are passionate cricketers. So I truly believe that BCCI is compromised in its vision for cricket of India. It is driven by power, paisa, and politics, and that is really unfortunate.
Thing is, you'll have a lot of sports people who say that the power and the politics that cricket wields is actually an advantage because it gives cricket then that much more attention. Other sports don't receive that attention. So what is your stand on this argument?
Where is that for me?
No, my question was to Chandrasekhar Luthra. I'm not sure if he can hear me.
Hello. Yeah.
Mr. Luthra, go ahead.
Look, Faye, it's a very vicious circle. Let me, yeah, I can hear you. Okay, the point is, when you are asking all the panelists about whether the cricket should rule or the broadcaster, let me tell you, this is beyond, cricket or any broadcaster. This game was started by BCCI way back in 90s when they denied ZTV their, right to broadcast. And the matter went to the Constitutional Court of Supreme Court. And there, it came out that BCCI should have some kind of say, in selecting their own broadcasters. So it is basically a inside trading. When I am talking about inside trading, any broadcaster who is paying about 43, 45 crores per match, how much he is recovering? He is only recovering partially 20, 25 crores per match, and that too if it is India, Pakistan or some bigger matches. So where is the other money coming from? It's a vicious circle, I'm telling you. The broadcaster is ruling BCCI because they understand if they don't put in that kind of money, BCCI will be in a soup. Over the years, the BCCI officials have taken lot of amount under table, and that's where the love for cricket is never been there for any, whether it was Mr. Dalmia or subsequently all the BCCI president. So the problem lies in broadcasters, and that's where I think they take their pie. They force BCCI to field the best players, whether it was Tendulkar at one point of time or now Virat Kohli. That's where they have to recover the money. So it's a vicious circle. It is a broader debate. It is not just a debate between marketing people or us. It is a bigger debate how the money has been coming into the cricket. It's a vicious circle. Lot of hanky-panky is being going on between broadcasters and BCCI.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that the issue that is at hand, that Virat Kohli's absence will hurt Star Sports largely, and they will not be able to recover their financial interest. I would say that we have seen n number of tournaments in the past where a major player has not played and still there was a lot of viewership. For example, the Nidahasa Trophy, if I correctly remember, in February, March in Sri Lanka last year, it was a very good tournament. It went to the last ball. And as a cricket enthusiast, as a cricket lover, you want to see new people taking up new challenges. If every time Virat Kohli comes and because he has a selling capability which could earn back revenues, that may be good for the broadcasters, but that may not be good for the cricket at large. So I am purely taking the point of cricket because it is a golden opportunity for someone
but
who
we
is
have
going
to look at
play
it. No, I see what
Indian
you're saying.
team in place of Virat Kohli.
Yes. I see what you're saying, but Kishore Bhimani, here's my question. We also understand from news reports that the schedule of the Asia Cup was changed. The schedule of the Asia Cup was changed to allow for 2 India-Pakistan matches on weekends. So obviously, even the schedule is being altered at this point to maximize viewership. So if the broadcaster is already influencing schedules, how long before they start influencing selection committees?
Faye, may I tell you, I don't think it's the broadcasters who are changing the schedules. I have seen cricket, these triangular tournaments, these Asian Championships, Asia Cup, Hero Honda Cup, various cups, Wills Cup. What happens is when the organizers sit down to make the schedule, they try and make it for maximum viewership. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you see cricket playing around the world, today, India, as Shailendra has very clearly pointed out, is such a major contributor to this. Each broadcaster, each country that is hosting the cricket, keeps its eye towards India. Believe it or not Pakistan, not Sri Lanka, not even England. Will the Indians be able to see it? Believe it or not, it's never been stated, but this is true. Today, if they have made it so that people can see it over 2 weekends, the 2 matches between India and Pakistan, I don't think it is only for the broadcaster. I think it's also for us, people who are going to sit here and watch it rather than go to Dubai. So, Faye, you must look at it this way, that there are certain things that can be done. My objection is that you cannot say, why did you rest so-and-so, why did you drop so-and-so?
Right, okay, so let me now open up the panel, and I'm also opening up the phone lines, so we'll patch in. Anyone, yes, Sumansi Raman first and then Dilip Cherry. Mr. Raman, go ahead.
Okay, Faye, my take on this is that the broadcasters have already had their say,
romanticize
and
the cricket that was played in the years past. But today, I think you will have to accept the fact that without television broadcasting, you cannot have cricket played the way it is today. So it's all very well to say, you know, the spirit of cricket, the glory of the game and all that. But today, it's the man who's putting the money on the table who does the talking. That's how it is globally in any in all sports. In fact, broadcasters may not influence selection. Here also, the question is not about influencing selection. I don't think anybody is saying influencing selection should be done by the broadcaster. That is not the case at all. But having said that, in the contract, if there is a clause which says that the best available team would be sent and the best available team is not sent for whatever reason, a player may be rested even though he is available for selection, then clearly some element of compensation must be made to the broadcaster. End of story. I don't think even Star Sports seriously expects anything more than that. They expect the BCCI to see reason who, I mean, I'll give you a simple example, Faye. First of all, you take a match like tomorrow's match against Hong Kong and so on. Now, at least there may be, if Virat had played, a few people more might have watched the match. There's no doubt about it. So, it's not a question of India, and the point about 2 India-Pakistan match, the second match is actually speculative. It is assuming that India and Pakistan beat the weaker teams, they will play the second match on the Friday. Now, that's an assumption. That's not a certainty as yet. But the key point is the contract violated or not? And the broadcaster is entitled to compensation if there is a violation of the contract, period.
But who's in a position, okay, so anyone who wants to rebut this, how is the broadcaster in a position to decide what is the best available team?
You know, there is...
Yes, Mr. Cherry, go ahead.
I don't think it's about the best available team. It's also about the fact that we have to concede that broadcasters have made fundamental changes to both sides of the game, both in terms of providing funding, but also, for example, in making sure of the transition from a red ball to a white ball. So there is no doubt that the game of cricket has had to make changes to take into account that today people no longer, buy tickets and go and watch. The game is actually watched on television. So it's broadcasters who are providing the backbone of support to whatever product that BCCI is trying to put together. So if they have a gentle nudge one way or the other, I think they deserve the right to be heard.
All right, Mr. Bibani will rebut, and if anybody else wants to rebut the idea that the broadcasters deserve to be. Yes.
I'd like to.
One second, Mr. Bimani first,
I'd like to
and
make
then
one
Mr.
point.
Yes.
I'd like to make. Okay, Faye, I'd just like to make two very quick points.
Yeah, I would
the
like to make
red
one
ball
point
did not
quickly,
become white
that
ball
the
by broadcasters. The red ball became white ball.
Forgive me. Go ahead, Mr. Bimani.
Yeah, the red ball became white ball not because of broadcasters at all. Red ball became a white ball in 1978 November when the Packer series was being played in Australia, when they tried to create a new kind of game, also described as pajama game, night cricket, entertainment cricket, to draw the housewives, to draw people after working hours and so on. That's when it became white ball against a black screen. Anyway, that's separate. Now the important thing is, what is the best available team? Suman C. Raman, I think, mentioned about this. Very good point. Very good point. You have to have, but the best available team, after you have considered people you need to rest, after you've considered injury, after you've considered, of course, you must send your best team out. But that best team does not mean that you have to tell Virat that you go and play. I don't care if you're tired, if you're exhausted, if you're getting married, anything that have. No, we have to keep these things in mind. I'm not taking a side of the BCCI. I am taking the side of the players.
Can I make a point?
No, but
Yes.
Faye, by the same argument, I can rest the entire first team and send the second 11 and say that the first team needed to be rested. By the same argument of Mr. Bimani, I can rest not just Virat, I can rest Dhoni, Rohit Sharma, I can rest the whole lot of them and then send a second 11.
But you lose that tournament then, Suman Siraman. I'm sure the BCCI doesn't want that.
I have a short point.
Yeah.
This is not a tournament which matters to the country.
No, but what happens if we lose to Pakistan then?
That
in the absence of Virat.
If you can hear me.
All right, one at a time, please. I know we're having some audio issues.
Virat Kohli's presence will make
Yes,
can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I am saying that the whole issue is regarding Virat Kohli's absence.
For those guests, please.
Virat Kohli's absence is because the Yeah, can you hear me now? Hi. Yeah, so I was basically making an argument that this whole thing of Virat Kohli's absence is making headlines because they are anticipating that Virat Kohli's presence will have, a very great impact on the quality of cricket. What if a new player which joins the team in place of Virat Kohli performs even better? We would have new stars coming into the rankings. Yes, that's what my point is.
Faye, can I make a point?
Okay, all right. 1 second. Shailendra Singh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Faith, I just want to discuss the commerce of cricket. I just want to bring the debate back to what the reality truly is. The board has been in existence for decades. Different people have ruled it, manipulated it, managed it, run it, whatever you want to say so. But the fact of the matter is the board clearly knows the calendar. The board by now should know the pressure involved. The board should know for surely how much the cricketers can handle, the fatigue factor, not just just physical, mental, emotional. By now, the board should know the sport, the calendar, and the performance abilities of the athletes involved. If they don't know, then they're dumb. Period. Having said that, you are pushing Virat to limits. Virat is a poster boy for Indian cricket. You want to protect him. Why not in advance plan your season and say, Rohit Sharma is going to lead this tournament, and actually do it naturally and organically, and then the shareholders like the broadcasters, don't take them lightly. They bring in some serious cash to the table and amplification. Don't talk about broadcasters as by the way. They actually ensure that every living room in the world watches the sport. Having said that, therefore, you actually know the calendar, you know the capabilities of the athlete, and you know the financial pressure you're putting in the sport. Accordingly, plan it. And this way, even India will benefit because there'll be more captains. Like somebody just said, there'll be more cricketers and more opportunities, just like the IPL format. And you will not cheat anybody. And we will not have to sit and debate here because we do charge top dollar to the broadcasters and sponsors, and therefore the BCCI has to give a superstar team. There's no other compromise you can make because you're getting paid for it.
All right, we have Jasbir Singh on the phone line from Bangalore. Jasbir Singh, go ahead.
There is a formula available.
Mr. Raman,
potentially because you're...
Jasbir Singh, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Yes, I start again. I've said that the sports of cricket is just not a sport anymore. It has been commercialized. Let's not hide that fact. The type of mega bucks that a sports broadcaster pays BCCI for their sports broadcast is not small money. And they are not social organizations. They are a profit organizations. So they have to make their money. So they're fully right to say that they want the best team that should be playing. The other part is that very fact that today the punishing schedule is the fact of life for cricketers. They have physios, they have trainers, they have so many more facilities compared to many more years back. And they cannot say that today I will not play this tournament, not that play that tournament. Asia Cup is not a small tournament. It's also an important tournament. So there must be a strong reason why somebody like Virat, who is the match winner and represents the country, should be dropped or should be asked not to play. So I'm fully with the broadcasters saying that they should compromise.
That's true. Okay, you're with the broadcasters. Sumansi Raman, the other reason why Virat Kohli is so important is not just because he has a stellar playing record, but also because he's a crowd puller. He's, he has quirks on the field. He gets the audience to play along. He gets into some sort of controversy. He says interesting things to the press. So he does make the whole thing more interesting, not just on the field, but also off the field.
Yeah, I think, Faye, the important thing is cricket over the years has become increasingly personality driven. People go there, yes, they go to watch the game, but they also go to watch the game as played or performed by the big stars. So I think increasingly it's become a star-dominated sport, and therefore, it's very simple. Just talk to the broadcasters. They will tell you the TRPs when the stars are performing and the TRPs when the stars are not on the field. It's a clear differentiation that can be made out, and that is why broadcasters have this apprehension. In fact, some of you may remember, I'm sure Mr. Bhimani and others would remember, when England were playing a few years ago, there used to be a sharp spike in viewership when Kevin Peterson was playing, because Peterson was a star, he was a character, and he was surrounded by a lot of very quote-unquote, non-flamboyant players. So this is something which is real. It's not something which is a figment of anybody's imagination. So Virat not going there, but I don't know whether my previous comment was picked up. You have grade A, grade B, grade C contracts. You can easily work out a formula where the broadcaster does not feel cheated. You can say, if X number of grade A players are not playing, you can pay 5% less or something on the broadcast fee. It can be done if there is a will to do it, but Star is 100% justified in asking for a reduction in the fee.
In fact, I have one more question to place before the panel and the audience who are currently calling in. Given the fact that Virat Kohli has such a stellar record, he's a fitness freak, he's very passionate, he's enthusiastic, a lot of the young players and a lot of young Indians look up to him. Should we be treating his rest period like chutti and saying that, why are we not playing him? We should play him. Obviously, if he's choosing to rest in a tournament, he must have very, very good reasons. Now, isn't it important for us also to respect those reasons? He's not someone who's going to take time off. He's going to do this because he has valid reasons. Mr. Bhimani, there's a World Cup coming up that I'm sure he wants to be in best possible shape for.
Yeah. You know, Faye, I wanted to make one point very strongly. What Mr. Suman C. Raman said is very valid. I think he's got a very good point about perhaps changing the remuneration, etc., charged to broadcasters according to the team. That's a different story. What we are talking about is the right of the selectors to rest a player. Do you know what happens in Australia? Their top players, they have a team of say 15 or 16. They are going to play, say, 6 matches. Do you know they actually rest the top players? I've seen McGrath being rested, seen Mark Waugh being rested. Rested means what? They're in the team, they're playing the series, but they are not chosen for matches. It's a system which has been imitated only once or twice by England. West Indies have done it. The point is that these alternate choices mean that a man gets a time off in between matches, and this is very good. We Indians don't do that. But sometimes we rest people, Dhoni being a case in point, Virat being a case in point, Yuvraj once upon a time case in point. They get exhausted mentally. You can't, although the board knows, like Shairendra was saying, the board knows the schedule and they should pay respect to it. But the fact remains that sometimes even outside the schedule, a player suddenly becomes exhausted for whatever reason. I think, yeah, there should be somewhere in between.
Mr. Luthra, do you want to add to that? Chandrasekhar Luthra, go ahead, please.
Well, Faye, you know, it is a choice you have to make between the greed and the cricket. And we have opted for greed, as we all know. Mr. Bhimani was very right when he says only one country has always been, you know, very fundamental about their choices, how to rest players. I remember 2006 tri-series in Malaysia. They suddenly removed their top 5 players. There was so much of uproar that what is going to happen, you know, to this team, Australian team. And suddenly the new players came like Mitchell Johnson and all. They not just, you know, beaten India, but also won the tournament. So that's been a choice we have to make. But the point is here the collusion, as I have been saying, you know, the collusion between the management or the BCCI and the broadcasters. So how could you make your choices? What one of our panelists was saying, you have to actually divide the matches. That these are going to be the money spinners and the others. We have to, you know, divide it in a way that maybe India, Pakistan could go for 45 crores, but maybe India and Hong Kong could be as low as 3 crores. Why can't we make that choices? Because over the years, like Australia, they have produced champions. We have produced stars. Australia ruled the cricket for 12 years. They were the world champions. And we were bringing in stars like Tendulkar and everybody. We never won any great, you know, overseas tournaments or anything. But yes, as a country, we have produced so much of money. We talk about our, you know, being powerhouse of cricket. But in reality, we have ruined our cricket. And that's where everybody was saying cricket viewership is going down. IPL viewership is going down, but we are not bothered. We are still getting a lot of money at the cost of our own players.
To add to Mr. Luthra's point, I would say
in
that
fact,
he was
Faye,
very
the whole
right
problem
in
is that
pointing out that we have promoted the star culture and not the good players. You know, 10 years back, you see there was a Sehwag, there was a Dravid, there was a Lakshman and Tendulkar. All were good batsmen. Look at today's Indian team. This decision by Star Sports to ask BCCI that why they did not pick Virat Kohli is actually sort of promoting that same star culture within the team. The gap between a star and the other players is widening, and that is a very problematic issue for me as a cricket lover. That should not happen.
Faye, I have a point.
Once you make your point clear, that we want a player for
Faye. Yeah, the other issue that we are not
for a tournament because it would benefit us more. That actually promotes the star culture.
Okay.
That should go away. That is the reason. That is the reason
the other issue which we are forgetting is that
all right. Shailendra Singh, please go ahead. Shailendra Singh, go ahead.
Happening between the whole.
Since 2008,
Yeah.
When the
Faye,
IPL came into
Faye, I
being,
just had a
we
point.
screwed
I just had
Australia
a.
All right, gentlemen,
I
one
just had
at a
a
time, please. Shailendra Singh first. Yes, Shailendra Singh, go ahead.
Yeah, Faye, Faye, I just had a question for Mr. Bhimani. I have huge regard on his cricketing knowledge and experience. And my question to Mr. Bhimani was that Mr. Bhimani and us have been debating this for like decades on television about the scenario of cricket in India. And my question is, we being the global leaders in this sport, why do we keep doing this? When Dhoni had this situation, he was leading Test one day and T20s. The same thing with Virat. When we play so much of cricket and including IPL, why are we not believing in the philosophy of horses for courses? Why don't we have a captain for T20? Why don't we have a captain for one day and Test match? What stops us from putting all our eggs in one basket? And like the other panelists said, and then Virat becomes this massive superstar and everybody else get overshadowed. I mean, I truly believe KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, all
Because
our
we
Shikhar
have
Dhawan,
very few
all are
people who
superstars.
are
But then
certainties in the
because you
team
take
in the
Virat,
first
this
place.
massive.
We have very
yes,
few. I mean,
Dilip
we can count the
Cherian,
number
Dilip
of
Cherian was
people
to say something.
who would be certainties in our T20 team
Yes.
or in our
You know,
ODI
my
team.
view is that
That's the
I
problem.
think that, you know,
Let alone
we
be
have
captain.
to recognize
Sir,
that the BCCI's effort at extracting more and more value from the same people is the result why there is this, you know, non-planned kind of rest periods for people. And this exploitation is what is also happening on the broadcast fee side. So what BCCI is not seeing is that these are not inexhaustible resources. Neither do TV companies have the money to continue to pour into cricket if viewership is going to fall, and neither can cricketers be expected to perform if they are the only ones who have to perform whichever the format that the BCCI is playing. So the BCCI, which is at the center of this whole piece, needs to be seen from the point of view of a kind of management company which does not understand that its resources are both exhaustible and there are limitations which are being set by the marketplace. That's the fundamental thing I think we are missing.
Absolutely. Suman C. Raman, at the end of the day, you said, of course, that he's possibly
one
the only
quick point.
reliable player. What about MS Dhoni? What about everybody else on the team? Rohit Sharma. We also now have Saurav Ganguly, who's just come out and said that the absence of Virat Kohli won't be a factor in India taking on Pakistan in the Asia Cup. We shouldn't be worried about it. So what's your response to that?
No, there are. No, actually on a slightly different track, I'm also worried about the sort of cavalier attitude of the BCCI in saying Virat can be rested for this particular tournament. Remember, we lost an ODI series in England not too long ago. We lost a test series quite badly in England 4-1. Now, the point is, obviously the belief is once you're back on our sort of Asian conditions, you know, we are a different team altogether, and that's possibly gone behind this. But we do not, I mean, let's face it, in the present Indian test team or ODI team or T20 team, how many players pick themselves? Not even half the team picks itself. And that is why you cannot have this luxury of saying I'll have different teams for each of the three formats. In Australia, they had a surfeit of talent at one point of time. They don't have that luxury too anymore. So they're also going through that cycle where, you know, that phase is over for them. But they did at one point have that luxury. So they could say horses for courses, and we've got the good horses for each of the courses. We don't have that luxury. I mean, Virat Kohli is by far the best Indian test cricketer, best Indian ODI cricketer, best Indian T20 cricketer in the country today. Now you have no choice. I mean, of course, Dhoni obviously but Dhoni is nearing the end of his career. But Dhoni would obviously be a very tough contender for that. But other than that, how many players would pick themselves? I mean, you've got a bowling attack where not even two people consistently play more than two matches.
But this is also fair enough. All right, so Suman C. Raman, here is, according to you, the best player that we have.
So it's not that we have.
Here's the best player we have in the country. But who do we? And he's already, we know, played in England through with a severe back injury that caused him to play with severe pain, and he played through it. Do we want to push him to a point where he will not be able to play the World Cup? Isn't it important then to make sure that this this prized possession is actually looked after? And I know Mr. Bhimani had a response to that. Mr. Bhimani, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say one thing, Faye, very quickly. I think Shailendra made some very good points. Today, somebody mentioned Kevin Peterson. Absolutely agreed. Kevin Peterson was a crowd puller. So was Ian Botham. So was Tendulkar. So was Shahid Afridi. These guys are crowd pullers. People come and see them whether the team is winning or not. Today, somebody also mentioned this business of different captains. I think Shailendra was working up to it. And I think it's such an excellent idea that if we divide up the responsibility, Cheteshwar Pujara is only a test player. Rahane was regarded as in the 1-2-3 situation. We were coming to specialization. There are people who pick themselves. But today, the point is, we should not give in to this kind of bullying that only such a person can play. The important thing is there are certain, like Pujara cannot play the World Cup as things stand. So let us go with people. Let us give Kohli a break. Let him not be the T20 captain also. Captaincy will take such an emotional thing out of you. So today, if you have another captain, the Australians have done it, the English have done it. This is something that has to be done.
Well, I think the question really that Sumansi Raman is raising is that if you have multiple captains, will broadcasters then pay different rates for each captain depending on which captain is leading the side? Chandrasekhar Luthra, go ahead, please.
No, that's.
Yeah, Faye, the fundamental issue is whether they are demanding something which has not happened earlier. The same broadcasters were there when the IPL was happening, and the same captain was there for Bengaluru Royal Challengers. How many of us do not understand that Virat Kohli played his last game for Bengaluru Challengers after getting injured? In BCCI own statement, which was issued officially, he got injured in the second last game. He played after 2 days, just 1 day gap. It was 17th or 19th, whatever. He played another game. He got injured, missed that Surrey Tour, county stint, and then we were all talking about whether Virat
that's
will be
not
doing
an argument.
well in
That's not an
England
argument.
or something,
Royal
he did
Challengers
well.
Bangalore a couple of years
he
ago
was very
had a
fortunate.
bunch
But
of
the
stars.
point is, the same broadcasters or his own team forced him to play the last game. So why can't he do the same? When it comes to Asia Cup, it is basically once you have tasted blood, you are going to ask for more blood every time.
Well, and I just want to point out that as far as that back injury is concerned,
a series of stars.
yes, and what Sumansi Raman is saying, that injury that Virat Kohli was talking about during the England tour, he picked it up at the end of the South African tour. So it does make sense to rest someone if you consider him your absolute best, and considering that it's a physical and mentally challenging job at this point, and we want him to be in perfect shape for the World Cup and for the series that are coming up in between, then it does make sense then to give him a rest. The question that we have to ask is, are broadcasters now calling the shots? The good thing is the BCCI has very clearly told Star Sports to back off. They have said that, listen, you have no say in who gets selected. That is a job for the selection committee. But can BCCI then hold up that guard for long enough, given the kind of money we're talking about? Stay with Mirror now. Thanks for watching.